Welcome to RFID Journal Virtually Live. We're glad you've taken the time to join us today. I'm Rich Hanley, RFID Journal's managing editor, and I will be the host for the Label Converter track. This track is sponsored by Avery Dennison. Before we begin, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items and take a moment to explain how the session works. The audio for this event is broadcast over the internet. Make sure your computer or device's audio is available and unmuted, and that the volume is turned up to an acceptable level. You will be on mute for the duration of the call. You may ask yourself, how do I ask questions if I'm muted? Well, we have that one covered. If you have a question, you can submit it to us at any time during the session and direct it to the panelist by typing it into the Q&A box on the toolbar at the bottom of the Zoom screen. Your questions will be queued up and I will present as many of them as I can to the speaker at the end of the presentation. A recording of this session will be available after the chat. We will send you a link via email so you can review the content or share it with your colleagues for on-demand viewing. Our first session is called Every Breakthrough Needs a Beginning, How to Start with RFID. And our speakers are Jasper Zonneberg, Avery Dennison's Senior Director of Global RFID Inlay Sales and Market Development, Intelligent Labels, and DJ Lee, Avery Dennison's Director of Global Channel Intelligent Labels. Now it is my pleasure to begin the session.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is just depending on where you are while addressing and attending this session. Welcome to the online workshop in which I will address some of the basics around RFID and also the role we play in this space as Avery Dennison. And I will elaborate a bit on some of the relevant use cases to describe the spectrum in which we operate in the RFID space. Just quickly about myself. My name is Jasper Zonneberg. I've been with the Avery Dennison company for 16 years, predominantly in the pressure-sensitive label space, and since a couple of years in the Intelligent Labels division, where I take responsibility for the global sales and market development of our RFID inlays business. As much as I have looked forward to an interactive and face-to-face session with all of you, I hope I can still satisfy your needs and that I'm able to help you get excited about RFID, the opportunities of RFID, by hosting this online session. I hope and expect that the real interaction will come after we go through the slides while addressing questions or the suggestions you may have that you would like to discuss. Now, first about us. You see a couple of icons here, and what I will say describes the integrated SmartTrack and Avery Dennison company, and I'll limit to the RFID business that we operate in through our Intelligent Labels division. So in terms of the industry, both SmartTrack and Avery Dennison, so also Avery Dennison as an integrated company, has been in the RFID space for a long time. Within Avery Dennison, it started about 20 years ago in the apparel space. And if you look at the SmartTrack history, that has been a company that has traditionally been leading in more in the industrial segments. If you look at the R&D teams that we have by far the most scientists on site, which is also leading to a lot of innovation and more than 1,700 patents in the meantime. We are a sustainable, conscious company. We have a very clear sustainability roadmap that all our products, also within RFID, have to comply with. And this is to say that this is a process where we are constantly working on more sustainable sourcing, more sustainable manufacturing, and also allowing in RFID for inlays that better facilitate recycling in the end. We have a very clear commitment, obviously, to our customer, and that's actually in several ways. We service end users directly with RFID tags, and we'll talk about that later. But we also service channel partners like converters and system integrators with what we call RFID inlays. Quality, we have a very strong commitment to quality, and I'm proud to say that Avery Dennison is actually the only company at the moment that is ARC certified. And ARC relates to the Auburn University. It's a university that is highly rated for its testing, RFID testing protocol and certification. In terms of capacity and footprint, We host 7 factories where we produce RFID inlays in the meantime. They're all over the place, and this has lots of advantages in terms of flexibility. And this is also something that has proven itself in the COVID pandemic that we are unfortunately in globally, because it really helped us mitigate partly factory closures or situations where there was limited output due to the pandemic situation. Just to roughly and describe the product portfolio, our product portfolio in terms of ID and identification of products is a progressive family with multiple technologies that we use, simply for the fact that different problems require different solutions. So there's a traditional barcode, there's a traditional QR code. Obviously, today we talk about RFID, which can be both in the UHF, in the ultra high frequency space, or in the high frequency space with NFC. But also we are partnering with companies to work on what is beyond. What are the next technologies for identification that we want to play a role in? And to just mention a couple of examples, we are investing in companies like Wiliot for passive Bluetooth, and also investing in Pragmatic, which is a company that will bring a whole revolutionary new chip onto the market that will allow even more segments to join the space. Now, a real firm belief under everything we do in Avery Dennison for RFID, and the commitment and the strategy that we have around it, is all based on the fact that we believe that ultimately every physical item will have a digital twin. This will allow ultimately all items to be connected, and that should also allow for traceability in the supply chain, but also for consumer engagement. Now, what is RFID? Before really addressing what RFID is, let's first have a look at a traditional, I would say, representation of the value chain. What RFID does is it really provides transparency on an end-to-end basis of assets and products as they flow through the supply chain. It also shows here, if you look at the different steps in the value chain, that RFID can play a role in virtually every step in this value chain, which also means that for virtually every company and also in every segment, the RFID can play a role. From a process perspective, RFID really allows for real-time data capturing. It is all about reduction of human errors. It is a much faster in or out management of products. And you can do real-time inventory counts. If you look at what that now means from a business perspective, it really gives you an enhanced asset visibility. It also gives you a much more improved productivity. It allows for better brand and counterfeiting protection, and also lower risk, for example, of theft and losses, and therefore overall an increased productivity, increased revenue, and also increased profitability. Now, going a little bit to the basics of RFID. So what is RFID? Obviously, RFID is the wireless technology and all deals with transferring data to and from items that carry an RFID tag. If you look in the bottom of this slide, there you see a typical project RFID ecosystem. And what you see there is you have an antenna with a chip on it. There is a reader that needs to read that antenna and chip. And obviously there is I call it a software platform that makes the connection to, hey, whatever I read, how do I connect that to a unique product? And if you then take that into how that ends up in store, that is more in the right bottom of the slide, the RFID inlay, which is the antenna plus the chip, gets laminated into a tag, for example. The tag is attached to the product, and this is how you make that connection between product and the unique identity that you can then see in the software system. The next slide is just to reiterate the benefits of RFID in the way we live it as we speak. It is really about supply chain efficiency and visibility, and actually applicable for all markets and segments. Today, we see a real strong increase in the demand for the supply chain efficiency and also transparency. And this is driven by, by several trends that we see in the market. Obviously, there is an enormous increase going on e-commerce, which drives for efficiency in logistics service centers, to get faster in and out, be 100% sure that you pick the right product. Also, consumers obviously are much more demanding. Consumers want to know, where's my product sourced? What else can I learn about my product? There's a lot of pressure on authenticity, being able to prove authenticity of your product, but also preventing any counterfeit, things like that. And also what you see is there's an important driver for more efficient and effective product recalls. RFID technology can make it possible, for example, that if there is something wrong with, for example, a lot of mangoes, for example, within a couple of minutes, you can trace back to the farm, even to the date of harvest and the very single lot that a wrong product, apparently was part of. This also leads to much less, in this case, food waste, because you can be much more precise on what part of the products need to be recalled upon the issue that you have found. Obviously, and I said that also when I described the family, there's different technologies all about product identification. A well-known one is obviously the barcode scanning. And obviously the question is now, but what is the difference? What more can I do with RFID scanning? And just here in this slide, you see some of the main differences. A barcode needs line of sight. If you want to scan a product that's carrying a barcode, it needs to be facing to the reader, you need to see it, and you have to be relatively close to it, otherwise the reader won't read it. Also in barcode scanning, it's a one-to-one reading. And also in the barcode, that is, let's say, relative to RFID, it's a limited amount of information that you can carry on it. If you then look at RFID scanning, what's different there, it doesn't need line of sight. So whenever there's an RFID tag on something, even if the material is in a box, the reader will still read it. Also, the reader can read, hundreds of items just in a split second. It's not item by item reading. And also in RFID, there's much more information that you can store in the chip that the reader will then read and transmit to the software system. And also important, for example, for loading docks in warehouses, the readability goes up to several meters. In UHF, it can easily go up to 10 meters of reading. Talking a bit further now about RFID. RFID happens in several frequency spaces. Most applications is UHF or HF, so ultra high frequency, high frequency. Let's again talk about the differences. So UHF, you see 3 to 7 meters passive read range. Again, there's also solutions that go already beyond the 7 meter. Cost of the UHF tag is relatively low, and you really see this in logistics, supply chain, a kind of environment. That is where UHF today is used most. If you look at high frequency and NFC technology, that is only 10 centimeter to 1 meter read range, so you need to be closer. It is higher in terms of price of the text compared to UHF. And where you see it predominantly is in smart cards, payment cards, access control, so access cards, and it's also used for consumer engagement. So a typical thing that you see with HF tags, they can be read by your phone, and that is all what these applications also are driving to engage the consumer with all kinds of information about the products. Also from a user let's say experience perspective, there's a difference. UHF is all about an indirect experience. You can learn about, hey, where is my product? When do I know that my order will arrive? Whereas, like I said before, in NFC and HF, it's much more direct. With your phone, you get immediate one-on-one information from the product. Now let's look, this is again very basic, to the components of a passive RFID tag. So passive means it's an RFID tag without a battery. You basically have the standard label on the left that you used to have, carrying a barcode in this case with printed information. You then have an RFID inlay, and the inlay is just the antenna and the chip on a substrate, that can then be laminated into the standard label, and then you have an RFID label or RFID tag. Also, question, but what is now on an encoded tag? What can you put on there? And also, for the purpose of today, I took here an example of a retail tag. And just to guide you a little bit through the information that is on there. First of all, there's information about the company and the item. We call that a company prefix and an item number. Together, these two are actually the same as an SKU, was what they described. That is also what can be accomplished with a barcode. But what is new is that also in the RFID string, you can also add the lot number and the serial number. And that's a big difference, because now the product is let's say, unique. It's serialized. There's only one product with that specific number. And in the chip, there is a certain memory that can also add information on that product around, for example, expiry date. Again, the basics of RFID. So in RFID, it's all about a tag. A tag could be a label. It can also be integrated in the packaging, but at least it needs to have the antenna and the chip. There has to be a reader that kind of wakes up the chip, that helps the chip send what it is supposed to send. And then obviously there is a software platform that is collecting this information and also makes the link to a database that exactly describes, what product is being read. Let's now talk a little bit about the market, what we see the market is looks like. What you see here is more, I would say, more looking a little bit at the past. So how did we arrive where we are today from an RFID adoption perspective? What you see if you look at UHF, that has been predominantly a industry/manufacturing and apparel game, where you see on the far right apparel that is absolutely in massive volumes. And it is actually thanks to this apparel adoption that RFID tags have come down so much in price that all of a sudden it also becomes interesting for all kinds of other segments. If you look at the high frequency range, early adopters here were, for example, libraries. But also HF you see in, for example, in sports sports timing. If you run a marathon or whatsoever, very often if you carry your number, there's a chip behind that very often is HF technology. Low frequency applications that we've seen for quite a while is, for example, in toll road systems or animal tagging. All right. Let's move now a little bit to the markets. It is, and again, this is not exact science. It is our experience, based on experience and what we see happening. It is our expectation that by 2020, so in this year, the market for UHF RFID tags is about 15 billion units, which equates to about $1 billion of sales. And for the years to come, for the next couple of years, we expect that the annual growth rate will be between 20 and 30%. Now, like I said, we described in the previous slides some of the more traditional segments that have adopted RFID. What we see since the last couple of years is that many more segments now are joining the space. I think examples here are aviation. So there's some airlines and airports that use RFID already in the bag tags so that you have real life information on where your bag is located. We also see a lot of new use cases in beauty, and I will pick out one in the end, food, and also logistics, automotive, manufacturing in general, but also fast growing are the opportunities in the pharma and healthcare space. Also, I think worth mentioning, even though on a sad note because it's COVID related. We also see COVID being a big driver of further RFID adoption. And why is that? You clearly see with the COVID implications around us that there is a huge drive for touchless technology. Also, what you see is, with store closures, much even more pressure and growth in the e-commerce, which obviously leads to a lot of pressure with the logistics service providers to even have better inventory accuracies and to beef up the productivity in the distribution centers. Let's now look at some use cases that we see in the market. Before I go to specific segments, the first thing I would like to mention is that, as I said already, we literally see RFID popping up in almost every segment right now. So the conclusion of that is then also that for each and every converter, RFID can provide very interesting growth opportunities. And for those converters that are considering to joining the RFID space and to invest in it, Avery Dennison gladly offers its know-how, its experience. We can send people to help you in this journey to understand, hey, what does it take? How can I play? What equipment do I need to buy? How does that fit into my current infrastructure? When you talk about insertion capacity, for example, these are all questions that we have helped a lot of our customers with, and we are more than open and welcome to to help any next customer that is willing to join this space. Some more use cases that I would like to describe. So these are cases where Avery Dennison, in the past SmartRack, but I'll talk obviously from the integrated Avery Dennison perspective. Some interesting use cases that we have. So we are working very closely since a couple of years with KeyCheck. KeyCheck is a company that serves RFID solutions for, call it hospital trays or hospital cards or kits actually. And in these kits there is numerous 200 or plus items in there. Can be medication, can be tools, where it is very important that every type of medication is in there, that it is all valid to work with, so not overdue, etc. Where in the past these kits had to be checked manually. It took a half an hour for people to check if all the medication was in there, if it was not over the expiry date, etc. It still had many human errors while backfilling these kits. And what you now see by applying RFID to all these components, that literally within 2-3 minutes, the whole inventory take in a cart is done. It is much more efficient to replace it because there's no handwriting required anymore to say hey, I need medication XYZ to be replaced. This is all happening automatically, so way less human error, and also a 99.9 reduction of medical error by providing the wrong or an overdue medicine to a patient. Next use case, also in the pharmaceutical space, deals with COVID test kits, I should say. And this one is in particular in combination with blockchain. It's a solution that uses the digital identity platform to feed tag data to Suku's blockchain supply chain application. And basically, this is all about guaranteeing authenticity of this test kit. As we all know, there's an enormous requirement for kits. There's a lot of fake materials coming onto the market, and hence RFID also being used here to prove authenticity, to really make sure that it is the right test and that there is the right way of dealing with the information that comes out of this test. Another big customer of ours is Hamni Pharmaceutical. It's one of Korea's biggest, largest pharmaceutical producer. And here RFID has been used now for a couple of years, to tag more than 60 million products annually. And here it's more a pick and place. So it's packaging, picking, and placing application for inventory accuracy, and obviously also productivity. It's a very successful case for us that helped Hamni to much better manage the inventory and basically have no mistakes when it comes to what product to send where. Another use case is more in the food chain. This is all about a company called Renolds. They have been in the process of replacing all kinds of cardboard food trays with plastic trays. And when they were doing that, the first learning was that all these plastic trays were disappearing. So this is where we came in and helped them with applying RFID to these plastic trays to make sure that there was a more than 92% return rate on these plastic crates, simply because it was clear where these crates should be. So there was no ambiguity around, hey, where do they get stuck? Which customer is sitting still on how many trays, so to speak. Another, and actually this should be the last, I think, use case is in the beauty space. So this is about a company in South America. It's called Boticario. I've been in these stores in South America. There is many small products in these stores, from lipsticks, all kinds of small products. And a big challenge for these products is to have a good grip on what is the inventory that we have in store. And with RFID, Boticario has been able to have more than 98% of all the small little items in that store to be captured and to have real life inventory picture. So the accuracy went up from 43% to 98%. And this is an important prerequisite to make sure that you reduce your stockouts. So stockouts in this company have been reduced by 97%, and as a result, sales have grown by 3%, because stockouts, that is what you cannot afford, in this space. And RFID has been a great support in this particular situation. The next slide I will be very short, because I think I addressed this already in the beginning. Obviously, we are a global company. We have a global reach, global teams. We can serve you literally wherever you are. We have the widest range of RFID technology that we offer. Obviously, the widest product portfolio that you can imagine, and also in the way we service you, there is a lot of variety in which we can help out. So I would say, if there's any opportunity you have, reach out to our sales teams, and we will be there for you. Last thing I wanted to show is, talking about the global reach. So what can you find all over the globe from Avery Dennison when it relates to RFID? You see in blue, you see our R&D centers. You see in red, manufacturing centers, and in green, and I find that interesting to mention, you see our iLabs. So we have in each, let's say, continent now one iLab, and we will have more iLabs the further we progress. And in the iLabs, we showcase RFID technology, and also what we want to do there is to expose our employees and our customers, to what RFID is about. We have all kinds of use cases displayed, in virtually all segments where it plays a role. So it's really an area for innovation and collaboration. And I would gladly also invite any of you who is interested to see this, to contact us and pay a visit to one of our iLabs. This is for now what I wanted to share with you in this very first basic training session. I hope it has addressed some of the questions that you may have had, and that it helped you to become excited about RFID as a technology. And I look forward to actually take any question from you that you may have, and would thank you already for now for attending so far. Thanks so much.
Okay, regrettably, it looks like due to the time, there will not be time for questions. However, Avery Dennison will be following up with anyone who has questions that were unanswered, and they can take care of answering those after the event. Thank you to the panelists for sharing your insights. I also want to thank everyone who participated in this session. As a reminder, we will send you an email with a link to the recording of this webinar. We hope you will join us for the rest of RFID Journal Virtually Live. The next session in this track, Every Part Plays Its Part, Selecting Inlays and Chips, will take place at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Thank you.